Alright, welcome back to the RazorwireReviews Podcast, the triple threat of movies, wrestling, and life, which is pretty much what this is all about, really. I talk about films, I talk about wrestling, and I talk about life in general. And I want to start getting back to these. The last podcast I recorded for this series was back in March the 3rd of this year, so it's been many, many months. Let's do the math. April, May, June, July, August. 6 months, just over 6 months since the last podcast. I want to try and do these weekly, which is my original plan when I started doing them again this year, but I think I'll try and stick to it now and try and come up with some kind of day where I can kind of set aside and say that's when I'm going to do a podcast or release my podcast, and then hopefully people can get into listening to them if you guys enjoy them, and be kind of accustomed to when they'll be going out, because there's so much to talk about all the time, and I often don't have the time to sit down and talk about everything I'd like to talk about in a video. So yeah, questions. I want to open up every show with a question or two from the listeners, subscribers of mine from YouTube, and people I have on Facebook, stuff like that. I did send out a call for questions on Facebook about an hour ago, and I was just sifting through them now, and there are no questions, actually. No, not a single one. So I even asked a few people, hey, can you give me a question to kind of kick off my show with? And they're like, yeah, sure. And, I didn't come through with it. So that's fine. I mean, but I would like to do it, just kind of get some interactivity going. So if anyone is listening to this and would like me to answer a question or talk about a particular topic, which I have done in the past on this podcast, then just leave a comment either in the comments of the Razor Reviews WordPress page where this is posted, or on the YouTube link where you might be listening to this right now, or on my Facebook page. Just send it to me in a message or on a post, anything you want. You can now add me on Facebook as a friend. I have my own kind of Razor Reviews profile on there you can add me on. So just go to facebook.com/RazorwireReviews. My phone is belling off, and I was going to turn it off, and I forgot to turn it off, so it is now on mute. So there we go. Yeah, so it's been a while since I've done a podcast, and I'd like to open up the questions every week. I think that'd be pretty cool, and I'm sure there are many people who could kind of provide me with some questions, so I'm sure there'll be no problem with that. Now, I want to talk about what I'll be doing next with this podcast, because I was actually going to sit down and talk about my WrestleMania 30 story. That was my plan for this podcast. But I just haven't got the time to do it right now, and I'm feeling a bit crappy today too, so I'm going to save that for another day, another time, and I could honestly talk probably for about 2 hours on the subject, because it was such a huge trip, and the WrestleMania side of the trip was no different. I mean, we did so much. It's not just the WrestleMania 30 show, it's the weekend being in New Orleans and going to the convention, meeting wrestlers, and just all the places we went to in New Orleans, and the multiple wrestling shows we went to as well. So I think I'm going to do part one, which will be kind of the build up to it, like how it came about, my history of being a wrestling fan and wanting to go to WrestleMania and getting to live out that dream, and everything that happened when we got to New Orleans, and the Access convention, and also the Hall of Fame ceremony. And then part two will be my thoughts on the WrestleMania 30 show itself, being there, what it was like live in person. And then part three will be me and Connie, who was with me throughout the whole thing, and she'll be kind of talking about what she thought about it as well. She'll be my guest on that show. I'd like to do some podcasts with other people as well, get some guests on and just talk to them about life, anything, I'm always interested in people's stories, whether it's about films or whether it's about anything, really. I'm even considering doing some podcasts with members of my family, just to talk to them and stuff like that. So yeah, hopefully I'll be getting back into this, because I quite like doing it, and it's pretty cool. So you can look forward to that WrestleMania story series of podcasts in the future. Now, future plans I want to talk about in terms of my YouTube channel and just other things that I'm doing. It really feels like I'm kind of like the man with a thousand ideas and 1,000 plans and 1,000 projects. So many things are going on, and in my head at least, and things that I would like to do. And I kind of just feel like, what have you let yourself into? Why do you keep planning these new things? And it's kind of something I've struggled with my whole life, is having all these creative ideas and having too many eggs in the basket and not kind of, cooking any of them, so to speak. I just get this thing where there's lots of ideas I have, and I just don't end up kind of putting my full attention and my full dedication into, I end up kind of just spreading myself a little bit too thin. So, future plans, I mean, I have so many things I want to do. I mean, I'm currently reviewing every film I watched this year on Letterboxd, which I've actually just caught up with almost completely, which is good. And I've almost reviewed 200 films on that so far. And, they've written reviews, often a few paragraphs long, sometimes a bit longer. And I'm enjoying doing that. It is fun. Then other writing stuff, there is a book I want to write. I've written some of it already, but I have a feeling I'm going to kind of rewrite most of it. And it's kind of my story of being a backyard wrestler and all the years I spent traveling around the UK wrestling and all the stories I have and what that meant to me and stuff. And I've been, again, writing that on and off for years now. And I really want to get back to it. But again, it's just finding the time along with all the other stuff I'm doing. YouTube videos, I have the Harry Potter series I need to finish. I have my director series I want to do in November. And I'm almost toying with the idea of just cancelling that completely to focus on the rest of the things that I'm doing. There's the Pink Floyd reviews I want to do, although they're quite low maintenance. That's not a problem. And I've also been contributing videos to the Blu-ray Brothers channel, which was a channel that me, Ryan Chatway, and Robbie Webster started back in July, actually on my birthday this year. And we've done almost 3 months worth of material where we did weekly themes, like John Carpenter week, Alfred Hitchcock week, war week, sci-fi week, western week. We did actors, Arnold Schwarzenegger week, and other stuff like that. And we did skits and reviews and put a lot of time into all our videos, and we're just going to take a break now and call that kind of season 1, I think. I'm looking forward to taking a break from that and focusing on other stuff. But it's been very fun, and of course Robbie has left now. Well, he hasn't left completely, but he's on hiatus because he just him and his wife just had a new baby girl, and so they're kind of in the process of dealing with that, and it's taken a while to get back to normal with them. And so the Blu-ray Brothers are going to take a bit of a break, and then we'll come back at some point in the future and have some more fun with videos. And my videos, RazorWire Reviews, again, I'm just doing little videos here and there, and trying to again catch up with all the things I've got planned. And already I'm boring myself as I'm doing this podcast, so hopefully I'm going to kind of I don't know, just get a bit more interesting now. We'll just take a little sip of my ice water. That was much needed. My throat was getting a little dry. Turkey's a little dry. The turkey's a little dry. Let me know if you got that reference. So yeah, lots of future plans. I mean, I wrote a book in 2010, and I want to edit that and rewrite some of that and kind of get it printed up and stuff. But again, it just seems like I'm never going to get around to doing that. And then there's Blu-ray covers I want to make for like my old films, and there's just so many things I want to do, and just finding the time to do them along with everything else I'm doing. If you follow this podcast at all in any way, I was talking about getting into shape and stuff, which I did back in February and March. But then we went to America, and that kind of all went out the window. But luckily, we were walking around so much in America that didn't actually put any extra weight on, which was incredible considering the amount of crap that we ate. So that was good. But I've kind of let myself go a little bit since then. I'm not as heavy as I was before I started working out, which is good. But I've now joined a gym, and so I'm trying to go to there regularly. I didn't go today because I'm feeling crap, but making some progress there, I think, which is good, and I'm actually enjoying it. I've never been a member of a gym before, and I'm quite enjoying it to some degree, and I might get on to some of the crazy stories I already have from the gym. I mean, within a few weeks, I had so many just like unbelievable stories that I was telling my fiance about, like what I'd seen in that men's locker room, or what I'd, not that I was paying too close attention, but I couldn't help but notice the things that were going on in that locker room and thinking, Jesus Christ. The things that go on in those gym locker rooms are just, quite unbelievable at times. But yeah, trying to get back into shape. Not that I was ever really in shape, but I'm trying to get into some kind of shape that's better than the shape I'm in now, if that makes any sense. So yeah, lots of future plans for stuff and things, stuff. So yeah, as I said at the beginning, triple threat of wrestling, movies, and life. I'm going to talk about some wrestling now. Night of Champions was a couple of days ago, the latest WWE pay-per-view. Well, it's not really a pay-per-view now, is it? I think they call it like a special event because pay-per-view is kind of being phased out in favor of the WWE Network, which I've heard is not actually doing as well as they thought it would, which is a real shame because I think the network's awesome. I'm currently a subscriber to it, and my 6-month commitment runs out in a couple of weeks, and I will not be renewing it for now because, it's just... Oh, I actually have the network on the TV now, and they just put out an advert for the WrestleMania 31 travel packages. So interesting. Talking about my WrestleMania 30 story coming up, and there's WrestleMania 31 story starting for many people next Monday when the travel packages go out. I'd love to do it again. Let's just go on to that. I'd love to do WrestleMania 31 in California. That would just be the absolute perfect. I mean, we did pretty much the whole East Coast. This year we went to New York, Philadelphia, Washington, up to Rochester, New York, Niagara Falls, over to Canada, down to North Carolina, South Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia, Jacksonville, Florida, Mobile, Alabama, Louisiana, New Orleans, and we just did so much of that side of America that if we went to WrestleMania 31, we could go to California, go to LA, San Diego, San Francisco, we could go out to Las Vegas and all those places, the Grand Canyon, and I'm sure it would be doable, because I know Megabus has expanded over to the West Coast now, and that's how we did most of our trip on the East Coast, but there's just no way we could afford to ever do that at this point, and I doubt we'd ever have the time to do it after that either. So for me, WrestleMania 30 was really a once in a lifetime thing, and again, I'll get into that next time on the podcast. But my Night of Champions thoughts: it was a solid pay-per-view. I stayed up and watched it, and but quite honestly, I was thinking, I'm glad I'm not renewing the network, because I don't use it as far as I don't use it as much as I should, really. I mean, considering it is $9.99 a month, it is very cheap for what you get. You get like so much, but I just feel like I don't get enough out of it to be paying for it every month. So yeah, I think in the future, when I've got like a steady job, definitely it's something I want to get again. But and I feel like I have to stay up for the pay-per-views as well, and so I do that, and then I just kind of like screw my sleeping pattern up for like a few days, and it's horrible. So, and it has been the past few days. My sleeping pattern's been yeah. So I'm not really sure when I'll renew the network, but Night of Champions was interesting. It was a good show. There were some really good matches. Sheamus versus Cesaro was really, really good. I really enjoyed that one. Solid show. And then we had The Miz versus Dolph Ziggler for the Intercontinental Championship. That was an okay match. The tag team match between the Usos and Gold and Stardust was pretty decent as well. Apart from that, though, I mean, it wasn't that great, and then we get to Brock Lesnar, John Cena, which it was a good match. It wasn't great, I feel like it wasn't as different as it needed to be from their first match or their last match at SummerSlam, which was great, by the way. I really enjoyed how different that was, but this just felt like more of the same with just a bit more offense from Cena, but not enough offense from Cena to make it special. And then the ending, with Seth Rollins interfering, just kind of made Brock Lesnar not look necessarily weak, but it just kind of stilted his momentum a little, I felt anyway. And so, yeah, I just felt like it was a bit of a weak ending. And I was kind of glad that I wouldn't have to stay up for the next pay-per-view, and I'll find out what happens the next night for the next few months with pay-per-views and stuff. But I'm glad Dean Ambrose is back. That was good. I think he's probably the most entertaining person on the roster at this point. But I feel like they're really in a rut right now because I haven't watched Raw for weeks. I used to watch it every week for years. I do that up until this year, and I just I really just started slipping. It's just I just never heard anything good about Raw, and so I never end up watching it. I don't even end up watching the clips on YouTube. I'm not even that interested. So yeah, WWE, they always go through phases, and they go through kind of dips and ups and downs, but I'll always be a fan and try and keep up with what's going on. I was also talking on the podcast recently, well, not recently, but 6 months ago. If you were listening to these chronologically, it would be recently. But yeah, a couple of podcasts ago, I was talking about the release of the Burbs on Blu-ray from Arrow Video in the UK, a company who puts out like cult films and stuff and restores them on Blu-ray. And the Burbs Blu-ray I was so excited for. It was one of my favorite films. And it just kept getting pushed back. They were like, oh, we're delaying the release by a couple of months again. And then they were like, okay, we're going to announce what's going to be on the Blu-ray next week. And it's like, oh, awesome. Next week, they're like, okay, we're going to delay till tomorrow, and then we'll let you know. So, one day, that's okay. Next day comes, okay, we're going to delay it for another day. It's like, oh my God, and then they delay the release date again. But they put a lot of time and effort into it. They did a whole new transfer on the film, which is almost unprecedented considering that they were given, a transfer from Universal. They could have just used that, but they refused it, rightfully so. And did a whole new transfer, and of course it's never going to look fantastic because it's from the 80s, which was, kind of notorious for kind of cheap film stock, but it looks great, I think. And I was so excited to get it in the post, and it was a birthday present for my mum, and it's it's our favorite film to watch together, me and my mum. We both love it. She introduced me to it, and we watched it together many times. And so I'll definitely be taking the Blu-ray back to Wales in October when I visit, and we'll watch it together, me, her, and Connie, because we just love watching that film together. I got the Steelbook version, which is fantastic, and again, some great special features. I've made loads of videos about the Blu-ray, the anticipation of it, and actually receiving it and showing it off on my channel already. So if you want to check that out, you can just sift through my channel, and you should be able to find all those videos. And then soon I will be doing some kind of a vlog style video where I'll be watching all the special features and commenting on them at some point. I'm just waiting for the right time where I can do all of them at once, because I'm really excited to delve into them. There's like a feature-length documentary, there's an audio commentary and stuff like that. So yeah, I've looked at a few of them, but I haven't gone through all of it yet because I'm waiting to kind of make a special video for it. And then I want to talk very briefly about the new Pink Floyd album that's coming out in November, I believe, November 11th, November 10th, something like that. I'll sip of my water a second. Excuse me. And I'm really excited. I mean, I became a Pink Floyd fan back in 2007 on their 40th anniversary. I was really late to the game. But, they're my favorite band of all time, and they probably always will be. And if someone was to say to me, 6 months ago, the last podcast that I did, podcast number 6, and they said to me, hey, I reckon Pink Floyd are going to come out with a new album this year, I would have said, absolutely not. That will never happen in a million years. You're dreaming. But it happened. There was an announcement. Pink Floyd coming out with a new album, The Endless River, and I just could not believe it. And what they've done is they've gone back to the 1993, 1994 sessions when they were recording their last album, The Division Bell, that came out in 1994, which featured the keyboard player Richard Wright, who passed away sadly in 2008. And so the only surviving members of the band, as it still stands, is David Gilmour, the lead guitarist and vocalist, and Nick Mason, the drummer. The bass player and the guy who did most of the lyrics for the band throughout most of their career, Roger Waters, is no longer a part of the band. And there was a lot of bad blood between him and the other members, mainly between him and David Gilmour. And they've had somewhat of a public reconciliation over the past kind of 10 years or so, I guess. Maybe not 10 years, but let me think about it logically. Well, it was kind of in the late 2000s, I guess, when they kind of did a show together. And then in 2011, Gilmour appeared on one of Roger Waters' Wall shows, which I missed by 3 days, and it still haunts me to this very day, that I went to see The Wall live as performed by Roger Waters in London, and 3 days before the show I saw, David Gilmour made a special one-off appearance to play Comfortably Numb on top of The Wall, and it was gutting, because David Gilmour is probably my favourite artist ever, and I really want to see him perform before I die and before he dies, which I don't think is going to happen, because he doesn't really play shows at all anymore, at least not ones that are publicly announced and you can buy tickets for. It's just random things he shows up to every now and again. So it's basically just Dave Gilmour, Nick Mason. They spent about a month. The details came out this week. They spent about 30 days recording tracks and stuff, and kind of playing with stuff that had already been recorded and augmenting it and kind of making it into something more than it was. And as far as I'm aware, using a lot of the music that Rick Wright laid down 20 years ago. And as a matter of fact, there is a fun piece of trivia which I think is great. They're using a recording from that Rick Wright laid down, some kind of rehearsal audio on a organ at the Royal Albert Hall in 1968. Over 45 years ago. And I think that an album that is being used, and a member of the band who's no longer around is being involved with it, with his music, kind of posthumously, and stuff that he had recorded 45 years ago, I think is a really cool idea. It's kind of weird, but it's kind of cool at the same time, and I'm really looking forward to it. And there's been a kind of 30-second teaser released. Sounds very reminiscent of the instrumental work from The Division Bell, which I was a huge fan of. And so I'm really looking forward to it. Apparently it's a mainly instrumental album, and there's only one song with lyrics and vocals, which is a shame because I love Gilmour's voice, but at the same time it's different. It's what Pink Floyd always seem to do, is to come out with something different every time. And so I'm hoping that it will be different and interesting and cool, and that I'll enjoy it, of course. But I wouldn't like it if it sounded very much like the Division bell. I'd like something a bit more different, and I think that's what's going to happen. So I'm really looking forward to it. It comes out in November. The deluxe edition with the Blu-ray and CD is only £20, which I think is great. It's got a nice box. It's got a little book. I think it's a hardcover book as well, and you get the Blu-ray, the CD, and there's bonus video content on the Blu-ray as well, and you get some postcards and things like that. And to be only £20, I think is great, because a lot of the Pink Floyd stuff can be overpriced at times, like the Immersion box sets, although they had a lot of content. But I'm glad that it's only £20, and that I might be able to somehow find a way to get some money to buy that myself, because I really want to get it as soon as it comes out, because this is the only time I've been cognizant of who Pink Floyd are and were while a new album was coming out. It's really exciting for me, and I just cannot wait for it, honestly. So yeah. Also, I guess I can talk about this. My second favorite band of all time, Rush, are coming out with a box set in November called Rush R40, which is the 40th anniversary of their band, going back to their first album, Rush, in 1974. And it is a Blu-ray box set or a DVD box set that has basically Blu-rays of a lot of their tours, the tour DVDs, from Rush in Rio all the way up to Clockwork Angels tour. And it has some just amazing extras, and I really wish I could get it, but at the same time it comes out in November, and I don't know, it's just one of those things I could ask for Christmas, but I'd rather get movies, so I just don't know. I really, really want it, and I'm excited that it's coming out, and a lot of those unreleased video material is going to be available, but yeah, I don't know. It's just really cool that it's coming out, and hopefully it'll stay around and not go up in price in the future, and I'll be able to get it somewhere down the road. So that's going to be it for me for now. The future of the podcast is the last thing I want to touch on. Again, I want to do this weekly, maybe try and set a day where I can kind of say this is when the podcast is always going to come out. I'm not sure how that'll work with my WrestleMania story, because I'd quite like to get that done within the week. But then maybe it'll be nice to kind of, post it every week and kind of, not overload you guys with content, because these WrestleMania story podcasts are going to be about an hour long each, I would imagine, whereas the usual podcast is only 20 to 30 minutes. So it depends, but yeah, maybe, tomorrow's Thursday. It's currently the 24th of September. I'm recording this at 6 p.m. And so, yeah, maybe I'll post this tomorrow, and maybe call Thursday the podcast day. Maybe that'll be what I'll do. I'm not sure yet. We'll see what happens. But as always, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you have any suggestions for things you'd like me to talk about, anything at all, I'm all ears, and I will definitely answer any questions you have on this podcast every week. Again, just contact me any way you feel necessary. You can find all the links pretty easily. Facebook, Twitter at RazorwireRyan, or RazorwireReviews.wordpress.com. You can find a lot of the links there as well. So again, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast, and I'm looking forward to doing many more of these in the future. See you next time.